You're listening to Online Pet Health Podcasts with Dr. Megan Kelly. Continuing education for veterinarian rehabilitation therapists. Learn more at onlinepethealth.com.
Hey Vetrehabbers, the Online Pet Health team is full swing into organizing our Vet Rehab Summit. This is our annual veterinary rehabilitation conference. It's our 6th year that we're doing this now. Can't believe it. It's on the 12th of November. So if you're listening to this after that date, there's no need to worry. If you're an Online Pet Health member, you can access all the content from the conference in our members portal. We have 382 hours of learning on the portal, and our Online Pet Health members, you guys get free VIP access to the Vet Rehab Summit. You can go to vetrehabsummit.com to find out more. Today, Anae and I are going to be talking about 5 things that make a successful vet rehabber. Now, these are important topics that we'll also be covering at this year's Vet Rehab Summit. We want each and every one of you to feel confident and successful in the work that you do. So this year, we are focusing on some non-clinical CPD and getting you to work on yourselves a little bit. We do have a few clinical lectures, so for those of you that just can't get enough of learning more about the field, we've got you guys covered. Before we head over to that interview, a quick word from our sponsor. Hero Braces is devoted to helping canines lead an active lifestyle by specializing in custom braces for stifle, hock, and carpal injuries. The reality is that not all dogs are able to have surgery, and custom bracings can be a great alternative that provides stability and allows dogs to remain active. Since each Hero Brace is custom made to every dog, maximum support and comfort with reduced fitting complications is achieved. You can learn more at gohero.com. So today the tables have turned a little bit, and it was a bit strange for me, I will admit. So Anae interviewed me for the first time. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Hey Anae, thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited today to talk about this topic with you.
Hi Meg, it's great to be here.
So we're going to be chatting about the 5 things that I think, or we think, make up a successful vet rehabber. And these are topics that are going to be coming up actually quite a lot in our Vet Rehab Summit. So it was actually, when I thought about this, I thought, this is a great topic to tackle. So I'm looking forward to chatting with you. And we're going to swing things around a little bit now, which initially I was a little bit uncomfortable with. I was like, well, I'm always the person who interviews, but you're going to interview me, right? Is that what's going to happen today?
I am. Yes, I am. I'm excited about that because that keeps me in my comfort zone.
Did it put me on the spot?
I love it. Let's put Meg on the spot. So Meg, you thought of this topic and I actually like it. But the first thing I thought of when you said the 5 things that make a successful vet rehabber is what is a successful vet rehabber? So what does it mean to be successful in our field? What is our definition of success and how do we know when we've achieved it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that success is different for everyone, right? And so your success and my success are completely different. And I think the most important thing is not to measure what you think your success is against anyone else's. So when you're seeing other people doing things and achieving things, you're not measuring yourself against them. For me, I like to say to vet rehabbers, they should be setting goals for whatever it may be, and depending on where they are in their career. So set a goal. When you achieve that goal, that's success, right? So that for me is what success is. And yeah, it can vary depending where you are in your career, what goals you set depend where you are, how many years qualified you are. And they need to be realistic goals because, you want to be able to achieve those things.
Okay, I love that. So if we then think about, all right, how we're going to achieve success in the way that we've described it now, most of the things that stand in our way are actually in our own mind, right? So you've mentioned goals, but there are some really great processes that we can follow to achieve our goals. And we've spoken about that before. But if we think about why we don't pursue those things, why we don't take the next step, what are the things that you think that hold us back?
Yeah. So these are the 5 things that I think are really important. And I really tried to think back to me when I was practicing and what are the things that held me back, right? So the first one I would say is lacking confidence. And, we all go through periods where we lack confidence. Doesn't matter where you are in your career. So I just want the vet rehabbers to know that. Doesn't matter. You'll see other people and you'll think they've got it all together. Promise you that vet rehabber, that professional, whatever they do, they have periods where they lack confidence. So that happens with all of us. Not knowing where your knowledge gaps are. And I think this is something which I know we're going to be tackling at the Vet Rehab Summit this year. It's so important because I think that sometimes we don't even realize that we've got knowledge gaps. I'm going to give you some examples a little bit later of areas where I've actually just recently realized I've got huge knowledge gaps. So I'm doing some extra research and extra study to try and bridge those knowledge gaps. Not knowing where your limitations are. So I think that's a big one. Like we need to make sure, like, we don't want to like hold ourselves back completely, but we need to make sure that we're not doing things that we shouldn't be doing. Not having an inquiring mind. I like to question things all the time. And we have a lot of lecturers that when I watch their lectures, I'm like, afterwards, just my mind is just questioning things. And, for me, I think that is inspiring. It's good. And I think that it helps me to be more successful when I am questioning and inquiring, because I'm processing everything all the information that I've received, and I'm like painting a picture for myself, and it makes me understand things a little bit better. Yeah. And then the last one is something which, is something that's very, very true to all the vet rehabbers and online pet health, is the never stop learning attitude. I think that we are never too old to learn. We're never too qualified to learn. We can always learn. There's always something for us to learn. And I think that we have to have that attitude. If you at any time think that you've learned everything, then you're not going to be growing, and the chance that you are successful decreases.
Okay, fantastic. So 5 things. Let's go into each of them and chat about them each individually, starting with confidence. I mean, confidence is massive, and I think it's a big problem for many of us. It's something that so many of us struggle with, like you've said, from newly qualified to been in the industry for 20 years. We all go through those phases where our confidence is holding us back and is a challenge to us. And we've written about it a lot. We've written about it. We've had workshops about it. We've really tried to help you guys grow in your confidence. So Meg, if we think about, I think one of the interesting things as we've learned about confidence is how we've linked it to imposter syndrome. Can you talk a little bit about that? What is that link between confidence and imposter syndrome, and how can we identify that in ourselves, and what can we do about it?
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, and I'm no specialist or in imposter syndrome, I've learned from interviewing people, and Katie Ford is someone who I've recently interviewed, and also Tony Brooks. And I think imposter syndrome is something it's coming about in professional people a whole lot more. It's being recognized. From what I've learned, it's basically you basically doubt yourself, and you feel like you're a fraud. And I think it is more in high performing people. So if you guys are interested in listening to those podcasts by Katie Ford and Tony Brooks, we will put the episode numbers in the description. But yeah, I mean, I think that, for me, if I look at sort of personally, there were times where I had problems with confidence. So not all the time. I had times where I felt very confident, and then somebody would say something, or somebody would mention something, or I would maybe have a case that didn't work out as well as I'd liked it to. And then I'd start to doubt myself and start to think like, maybe I'm not the right person. Maybe someone else is better. Maybe I didn't when I did my studies, I didn't learn everything that I had to learn, and maybe I missed something. And these dreadful thoughts, and they're actually so debilitating, because they don't help you going forward in treating your patients. That day is usually a little bit of a write-off. Your brain is just going flat out, just thinking, like, questioning every single thing that you do. And I think the thing is that what I want everyone to realize is that it happens to all of us. So it's not like, I don't think there's one person that hasn't had some imposter moments. And that's what Tony Brooks says. He calls them imposter moments. He doesn't like to label it as a syndrome. But I think that the main thing is that when you feel like that, it impacts on your day-to-day. It impacts on the way that you treat your patients. It impacts on the way that you portray yourself to your clients and to vets, because you might not be as confident in your speaking. They can pick it up that you feel that way. And maybe to your patients, they're also picking that up. So I think it's really important that we address this. So if it's a feeling that you have, don't worry. You don't have to label yourself like you got imposter syndrome. We all have it. So you're having imposter moments. But like, what do you do about it? And I think that's the most important thing. So, this is one of the major topics we want to tackle at this year's Vet Rehab Summit, because, I think it is one of the biggest things that holds people back from doing things like research, lecturing, standing up and talking about vet rehab. They feel like they're not the right people. They don't know enough, and so we need to build our confidence. All of us need to have that ability to be able to think, okay, well, I've done all these studies. I've got the qualification. It's okay. Like, I've got this. So Katie Ford is actually coming, and we have 3 workshops that are leading up into the Vet Rehab Summit. On the 9th of November, Katie is holding a 3-hour workshop tackling this. She's got worksheets. It's live. It's interactive. She's going to work with you guys, break you up into groups. It's a maximum of 30 people. So if you guys are interested, please, you need to sign up, because the spaces are filling up very, very quickly. You can go to vetrehabsummit.com. But I think this is going to be so useful, Anae, because there are a lot of people, and that maybe even only now after listening to this realize, oh, that's the thing, and that's actually what I've got. Because sometimes you don't. Like, in the beginning, I used to think it was just me. I just thought, like, maybe this is my problem, but it's everyone's problem, and we can work together to help each other and make our consulting lives a little bit better, because being confident is a whole lot better than having those horrible imposter moments, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And it is kind of like imposter moments can become our thinking pattern. And I think that's when it really becomes a problem, is usually when we're faced with a new challenge or change or an opportunity to grow, right? We have an opportunity to expand our practice, to start working with a new vet, to pursue some business idea or opportunity that we've been thinking about for a while and mulling over in our minds. Those are the times when those moments, those thoughts of, am I the right person? Am I good enough? Is this going to work? Is it going to, is there going to be a return on investment? Is this going to make a difference to my patients? What are the vets going to think of me? Like, all those thoughts, that's the moment when it becomes a problem, because they hold us in place. They prevent us from stepping forward and acting on what we need to do. And yeah, they become, it's like they sap the life out of us when we allow them to. And it is about recognizing that this is a moment, this is a thought, this is not who I am. And I love that about Katie Ford said that in her last huddle on this subject. She said, recognize that it is a thought, it's not who you are. It is just a thought, and it can come and it can pass away, and that's it, and it's fine. We don't have to get stuck there, we don't have to stay there. We can just let it go and move forward and carry on with what we're doing and who we are. So I'm very much looking forward to that workshop with Katie Ford, because the huddle was extremely helpful to me. And if you guys want to go back and watch that, it is in the members portal in the business basics section. So just search for Katie Ford in there and you'll be able to watch that. But it's a very interesting one. It's a very, very interesting one to really think about and to consider, that we all struggle with it, but that it looks different for each of us. So the way that you experience it, Meg, will be different from the way that I experience it, or the way that each of our listeners experience it, which makes it hard to kind of put it in a box and define it, which I think is why Katie and, did you say Tony?
Tony Brooks, yeah.
Tony Brooks, they both say it's not, something you can label. It's not a syndrome, because it is quite individual and we all experience it. So I really find that interesting to think about. Okay, so let's take the next step now and go from that to, we don't know what we don't know, which is often one of the things that triggers those thoughts, is that we feel like we don't know, we don't have the, all the information or the right answers or the right knowledge or the right skills. So what are some of the signs that we might not have the knowledge required to be able to perform our work successfully, or that we have a knowledge gap in a certain area?
Yeah, I mean, I think this topic of knowledge gaps is so important, and it's something that I recently just realized. I had a knowledge gap which I didn't know I had until I knew, right? And so I had used another pulse electromagnetic magnetic field therapy mat for my small animal patients. But recently, I'm very excited. I've just bought the whole response system Sentry kit, and I know you're a little bit jealous, Hene, of that. I've got the blankets, the neck, the everything. Like I basically bought the whole kit. And in my mind, I've watched a few webinars and I know a bit about magnetic therapy. I know a bit about static magnetic therapy. So I thought that I had a really good understanding about it. And then I started like asking a few questions to myself and to Lisa from Response System. And I suddenly realized, gee whiz, I don't know all that. She was like giving me answers. And then I was like, I don't know that. So like, that's not okay. Like, I need to know that. And so it's exactly that. And if you'd asked me like a month or two ago, I would have like been, no, like I know everything about PMF, like not everything, but I know a lot, but I really don't. Like I really have realized now as I've started researching and looking at research articles and watching more webinars and training and courses. And I'm like, wow, like I really didn't know all of this, which I thought that I did. And so, identifying that you've got these knowledge gaps is so important. So like, how do you know when you don't have when there's something that you don't know? You only know it when something happens. And I think the most important thing is when this moment happens or this trigger happens is that you need to be aware of it, because it's very easy just to squish it to the side and just say like, I'll just forget about that, and I've done that often, in a lecture or something, somebody will say something, it might be like an abbreviation or they'll say a sentence and I'm like, didn't quite understand that. And then part of me wants to put my hand up and say, I didn't quite understand that. But then the other part of me, the one that's lacking confidence thinks, well, maybe I'll be judged if I put my hand up, but in that moment, what I should do is write that down. Like I should have some place where I write that down and say, that's a knowledge gap. I didn't understand that. But what I did was just forget about it and then just be like, oh, okay. And you might be, the times where I think that you could identify knowledge gaps are maybe when you're in Facebook groups and people are talking about specific things. They ask a question that you don't know about, and then you read some of the answers. Those are areas where you're like, I didn't know about that. I need to go and research for myself, not listen to what everyone else said, because that's all their opinions, right? You need to go and do the research for yourself on that topic. So it's usually Facebook groups, when you're listening to lectures, when you're listening to webinars, when you're talking to colleagues, maybe you're having conversations with colleagues and somebody says something, you think, well, oh, I don't actually really know that. And instead of just squashing it to the side and forgetting about it, actually create a system for yourself where you're like, okay, I need to go and find out more about that, because that's how you grow, right? When those little knowledge gaps where you've identified them, then you got to go and find out all the information and fill that gap.
I love this part of it, because I think that 2 or 3 years ago, I would be having conversations, or I would be in our Facebook groups, and someone would mention some strange condition or thing or something, and I would go, whoa, I don't know what that is. And that imposter syndrome and all those kind of negative thoughts would hit me really hard, because I should know these things, right? In this position as well with online pet health, I have a lot of colleagues that I studied with who will ask me for advice. And in the beginning, that would really freak me out, because I would say, well, I'm not actually working with small animals in clinical practice. I don't really have the answers. But now I find it really exciting, because when people mention some strange condition or some strange terminology for maybe a tibial thrust or that rotation that happens, which is now out of my head in cranial cruciate ligament injuries, which I had never heard of before a few months ago. Now I find that really exciting, because I'm like, okay, great, let's go figure out what that is and learn about that. And instead of it knocking me, I see it as an opportunity to really grow. And I find that if you put yourself in a position of helping other people understand and educating them, even if it is really, really small. So for example, someone says, hey, what is polyradiculoneuritis? And you, instead of just giving them a simple answer, say, let me take a step back. Let me make sure I really understand. It doesn't matter if you've seen 5 cases in the last 3 months, which I don't think anyone does, but it doesn't matter how many cases you've seen. It doesn't matter how well you think you know. Go take the opportunity. Like Meg said, she worked with PMF for years. And then when she re-asked the questions, noticed that there were gaps in knowledge, right? And then educate them and help them understand it a little bit better. I always find that's the best way that I understand a new subject, is if I teach someone else. So I love that. I find it quite exciting now when someone comes to me with a weird and wonderful question that I don't have the answer to or don't fully understand. And it's also about taking a step back, I find, and going back to, if it's a complicated case, just go back to the basics. Evaluate it. What is your problem list? And go from there. We don't always have the answers, and that's okay. And if that's all we have, that's okay. Then that's what we move forward from. So that's really helped me a lot with this one. Just flip the switch a little bit and look at it from a different perspective as an opportunity to really understand something new. The other part of that is that we don't always have time, right, Meg, to say, okay, well, I don't treat dogs and someone's asking me about polyradiculoneuritis. I'm never going to see probably one of those cases. So why should I spend the time in figuring out what it is and how it works and what the prognosis is and what they should be doing? And I think that's valid as well, is knowing when to put the time into expanding knowledge and skills into an area that is going to serve you and serve your clients, and when to step back and, refer them to someone else who is going to be able to give them that knowledge. I think it's okay for us to not know everything and to not need to know everything, because the more we fill our brains, the more stuff falls out the other side in my brain. So I need to remember the things that are going to serve my patients. But no, that's not completely true, because the more we train our brains to learn and to grow, the more capacity there is for that. And that's something that Emmy Hesbach is going to be speaking to us about at the Vet Rehab Summit as well. And she's actually our keynote speaker for the summit. And she's going to be speaking about knowledge gaps. She also has a workshop leading up to the summit, which I think is going to be incredible. And then she has 2 lectures in the lineup of the day. And she's going to be speaking about our brains, neuroplasticity, as well as how we can identify and work with those knowledge gaps. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, so then the next point that we should talk about is something that Nicola Kennard said in one of her business basic trainings, is to stick to your lane. So this is really a double-edged sword for me, because firstly, we need to choose kind of our area. What is our lane, or what is our niche? And we're not going to go too much into that. But secondly, we need to know what our limitations are so that we can work within them. And knowing your limitations and understanding what your ability is really important. So how can we identify our limitations, Meg, and how can we stay within them while still gaining confidence in our ability and still gaining knowledge and understanding and expanding our skills?
Yeah, and I think this all comes down to being informed. I think our limitations are our knowledge and our experience. So experience is time-based, right? So knowledge you can gain. So I think the first place that you've got to start is to get the knowledge. Once you have the knowledge, then you just need the confidence to put that knowledge into action, right? So that's really, really important, is that once you have that knowledge, then you know what you can do. I think also, there's that saying, do no harm. I think as soon as you get to a point where there's a possibility that you can do harm, that's your limitation right there. You can't move any more forward than that. I do think that it is easier when you're in a group, when you have other vet rehabbers with you, to push your boundaries a little bit. I think as a single vet rehabber in a practice by yourself, your limitations are a whole lot more. You're less able to push those boundaries and do more, because you can't learn from other people. You can't have guidance. But I think it's really important that we do have to push the boundaries a little bit, but just knowing that what we're doing, we're not going to do any harm. And we do need to make sure that we have all the knowledge. Once you've got the knowledge, you're okay. You know that whatever you're going to do is going to be something that's not going to hurt the animal or harm the animal. Gain the knowledge. That's the most important thing.
Love that. And work in a team. Right. So let's talk about having an inquiring mind. Yeah, I love this. So having an inquiring mind is really important to achieve success. How does that mindset keep us positive and moving towards growth, Meg?
Yeah, having an inquiring mind, for me, this is always about just questioning everything, right? It's about not believing everything you hear or read. And it doesn't matter who says it, even, because, like there's so many times in history where people have believed something, right? And then it's changed. Okay. So the 4-minute mile, that's a great example. Nobody thought that you could break the 4-minute mile, right? For years and years and years, like hundreds of years, like 100 years, people were trying to break it, right? And then Roger Bannister in, I think it was like 1953 or something, he broke the 4-minute mile. And then what happened? 2 months later, 2 other guys broke the 4-minute mile. And I think today, like there are like 1,663 people who've broken the 4-minute mile. And so for him, he was like, well, he was just saying like, I can do this, he was inquiring. So if everyone had said, no one can do this, this is how it is, and everyone had believed that, then no one would have. But you have 1 or 2 people who question, and they don't accept what they read. They're not going out there like saying, that's wrong, and they're just questioning. They're just saying, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to keep questioning this. And that's what I think that we need, is that we need to just be questioning things all the time. Because I also think that, when we're learning, it's so easy when you're listening to lectures and courses and things to take whatever you hear as this is the truth, this is the truth. But the thing is that often it's people's opinions on things, because we don't have loads of research on every single topic. So sometimes it's anecdotal, sometimes it's people's opinions, and you need to form your own opinion. And you do that by questioning things, all right? So you question everything that you hear, everything that you're listening to, and you form your own opinion. But we do got to keep questioning, because that's how we grow. That's how we break the rehab 4-minute mile.
I love that. And especially where we are in our profession now, with more and more research coming out, that is so important, because just because something's published, it also doesn't make it gospel, right? It doesn't make it the whole truth. Can you apply that in your clinical practice and have the same results? That's the question that I have every time I read a really cool research article that I can see how I would use that in practice. I go, hey, can I reproduce this? I don't know if anyone else has that feeling, but there are at least 4 or 5 papers I read every year where I go, can I do this experiment myself? Like, can I take my horses and get the same results? And I think that is really important. And what else is true? I love that. I can't remember where I heard that, but someone said to me, well, what else could be true? Because yes, it might be true that doing this will increase, it will, have that effect or that result or outcome, but what else could be true? And the more research we have, the more important it is for us to keep asking those questions. Leilani Alvarez just did her group actually published a meta-analysis on post-op cruciate ligament rehabilitation. So amazing that we have our first meta-analysis on CCL. It means there's enough research out there to be able to put that together. But the amount of gaps and questions that we still have within that is insane. So she brought that up and she spoke about that, and she was like, well, we couldn't, the meta-analysis didn't show that this was effective. So what do we do with that information, right? Do we take that out of our treatment protocol? Do we remove it? Do we re-look at how we did the research? What do we do? What else could be true? What else could we incorporate? So I really like that. I really, really like that inquiring mind, questioning everything. Don't just accept something as the truth.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, every single researcher starts with an inquiring mind. That's where the spur of that, like, is this true? That's where they decide, like, this is my hypothesis. This is what I'm going to try and prove. So we need inquiring minds, because we need research.
Oh, and you know what else, Megs? If we are talking to other people with different perspectives, I find that is extremely inspiring for getting that thinking going, because when we're just talking to rehab therapists all the time, we have very similar perspectives, very similar ways of looking at what's in front of us. But when we speak to someone else, so in the canine industry, I don't know, would you speak to a dog trainer or a behaviorist? They would come with a completely different way of looking at the patient that's in front of you. I find saddle fitters, good saddle fitters, phenomenal to speak to when we're looking at the patient in front of us, because their evaluation process is different and the dots that they've connected within their profession are different to ours, but so relevant, because we're still talking about the body and how the body is responding to pressure, to stress, to whatever is happening. And when they come and they say, hey, when you see this stress line on the abdominal muscles, it means that. Then I go, what? I never thought of that before. How can I apply, how can I bring that into what I do and how I'm working with these patients? So it's so important to me to have those conversations and learn from the other professionals in our field, because that's where those sparks come of, hey, what else could this mean? Where else could this be coming from? Because we do get stuck in a rut. We get stuck in our own experience and perspective, and that's fine. But it's when we open those doors that we can really, really move forward. And I find that really exciting. Okay, so the last point that you have is that never stop learning attitude. And this is what we base everything we do on at Online Pet Health. Never stop learning. So Megs, talk to us a little bit about that and how we can, have that attitude and cultivate that in ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, for us at Online Pet Health, we just want to continue growing, continue learning. And we want everyone to have that same attitude, because that's how you grow. You just got to keep it. And we do this within Online Pet Health, not just from the vet rehab perspective. I mean, we are learning about computers and how to update your map software and whatever, learn, just keep learning and growing, because otherwise we're just standing still. And I think it's also that attitude is really important. So you can say, I learn all the time, but it's the attitude really that I think is important. And it's just that every single opportunity you have to learn something, take it, just be a sponge and learn from everyone. You were talking about speaking to other people that are in different fields. Take those opportunities whenever you can to learn from people, to learn wherever you can. And I think really, for me, and I know for all of us at Online Pet Health, we schedule in learning. It's part of who we are. It's what we stand for. And so every Friday afternoon, I do some type of learning, and all of you guys got to do the same thing. Often people will say, I don't have time, but you got to make time. There's never time. There's never time to do things. And we've always got so many things to do, but you've got to have that attitude. This is important to me. This is a priority. I need to keep growing and I need to keep learning.
I really love that. And it's that attitude that sets us apart at the end of the day, because it's not about us. It's not about being the best. It's not about knowing everything. It's not about being the greatest. It's coming from a place of genuinely wanting to do the best for our patients that we can, from genuinely wanting to grow our profession. And I think that difference is the important thing, is that we're not here to shout our own praises, to let everyone know, hey, how great I am, how much I've learned and grown this year. We do want to celebrate that. Of course we want to celebrate that we've done 100 hours of CPD this year, and these are the great take-home points that we've been able to learn and integrate into our practices and really make a part of who we are and how we work and we function. But this is coming from a place of humility and recognizing how much the others in our industry have to offer to our industry. It's about recognizing that we're part of a team, that we're part of something bigger, and wanting to play our part in that. And I really love that. I really love that. So Meg, just to summarize, bring those 5 things together for us again. What are the 5 things that are going to help us become successful Vetrehabbers?
Yeah. So first of all, you want to be confident in your abilities. Number 2, to have a system to identify your knowledge gaps. Number 3, know your limitations and remember to do no harm. Number 4, keep having an inquiring mind and don't let those limitations box you in. And number 5, have a never stop learning attitude.
I'm excited. That's a version of success that I can definitely get behind. It's not based on how many patients I'm seeing or what my financial value is. It's based on who I am as a person and how strong my mind is. And I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Meg. This has been really interesting.
Great. Yeah, I thought we would just maybe mention about the Vet Rehab Summit. So we've got workshops on the 9th, 10th, and 11th. Those are limited to 30 people. So if you're an Onlinepethealth member, you can register in the members portal. You get a special discount. And we've got one on the 9th is the one for Katie Ford. So overcoming imposter syndrome. On the 10th is bridging the gap between knowledge and experience with Amy Hesback. And the 11th, it's finding the excellence that you bring to the world with Nicola Kinnard Comedy. And then on the 12th of November, that's our big day. We're going to be live, guys, there. Please come and join us. If you are an Onlinepethealth member, you get VIP free access. If you're not, you can purchase tickets for the day. And we also have our limited access pass, which you can sign up for. So if you go to vetrehabsummit.com, and we've got a whole lot of awesome lectures. So just off the top of my head, when your best wasn't good enough, overcoming criticism to achieve excellence, Francisco Maya, that's going to be amazing. Amy Hesback doing 2 lectures for us. Rachel Spencer talking about building your credibility. And then I think we've got the think tank. Do you want to chat about the think tank quickly? That's going to be cool.
That's a big one. Yeah, so our think tank is bringing the perspectives of some different people together. So we're going to have 4 or 5 panelists on that. It's going to be a 2-hour discussion, and we're going to be talking about where the trends and the changes that are going to be impacting our patients and our businesses over the next few years. So the last few years have really shown that up for us and have really shown us the challenges within our profession and our industry, our businesses, how we manage our patients, and the opportunities that we might be able to take from those changes. So we're going to be chatting about that. We have Jenny Taylor, who has a very strong business focus, who's going to be joining us there. She has some really great ideas that she's going to be bringing to the table that we'll speak about. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to just speak about those things that are impacting us and impacting our patients over the coming years, and to bring those different perspectives together. So it will be a conversation that you guys as attendees can join. That is the point of it, for us to speak, communicate, share thoughts, ideas, and challenges and opportunities. I'm really looking forward to the think tank. Yeah.
So you guys, you got to be live. So just go and bookmark the day. You got to be live. If you want to benefit from all these lectures, come live. That's the best thing. Just say to your family, friends, 12th of November, it's my day. That's my day of learning. And thanks so much. It's been wonderful chatting to you about this topic. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the 12th of November. I hope to see all of you guys there.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Cheers.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thank you to our sponsor, Go Hero Braces. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free. So please go and check them out, goherogo.com. Don't forget also to bookmark the Vet Rehab Summit. It is on the Saturday, the 12th of November. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference. It's created specifically for you, the Vet Rehabber community. Onlinepethealth members get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.